So just a few tips on styling and when you're getting dressed. Always try things that you don't think work, because I say there are rules, but then throw the rule book out at the same time. But also make sure that it works with your shape. Like, I'm a bigger guy, so I'm very aware of how it makes me look, not only up close, but from a distance. And, for heaven's sake, look at yourself in a mirror before you leave the house. That's my biggest rule.
Today we're heading across the seas to our neighbors in the land down under, Australia.
Do you come from a land down under?
Fuzz was recently in Sydney and he managed to meet up with an old mate who just so happens to be the founder of Australia's leading men's lifestyle blog sites. Meet Arrnott Olssen. Born and raised in Suva, Fiji with his mom Nancy Olssen and brother Carl, Arrnott immigrated to Australia after completing school at Suva's Gospel Primary and High School. In 2001, after a rigorous audition process, Arrnott made the top 50 for Australia's second series of pop stars as they searched for 5 individuals to form a pop band. Despite eventually not making the final band, Arrnott quickly became a favorite after he performed an original song he had written about suicide prevention. 3 years later, Arrnott once again auditioned for Pop Stars, this time as they searched for a solo winner, eventually making the top 4 and signing to a label. Arrnott became a fixture in Sydney's love music scene and a prominent vocalist in the house music arena, opening for the likes of Boy George, Basement Jaxx, and Roger Sanchez, to name a few. His work as a stylist and lifestyle knowledge eventually saw him launch a blog called Arrnott the Collector in Feb 2009, and after a weight loss in 2012, relaunched as Rogue Om, which has gone on to become one of Australia's leading men's lifestyle sites and seen Arrnott's style contribute to publications like Men's Health.
Hi guys, Arrnott here from Rogue Home, and today we're doing something just a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a bit of building. Actually, Koala makes things so easy. I'm putting together the new Koala timber bookshelf. So here we go. Insert disclaimer. You may need a friend or two to help you with the build, especially with this one. But here comes the fun part. I get to show you how I style my bookshelf. Now, I've gathered a whole lot of some of my favorite pieces. They're all up here, and I'm going to slowly start to fill it into the shelf. So guys, for one last touch, remember there's no right or wrong way to style your shelf. It's organic, you can add and subtract as you please, but have fun with it.
Bulvanak everybody. I'm in Sydney today with Arrnott Olssen, who is the editor and founder of Rogue Om. Rogue Om is one of Australia's first and leading men's lifestyle sites. With almost 100,000 followers on Instagram, Arrnott has done incredibly well from the time that he arrived in Australia, starting out in music and now ending up as a bona fide influencer in the most positive way. What a lot of people at home don't know is that Arrnott is actually Fijian with very strong cultural links, having been born in Suva and raised in Suva as well. This is probably the first time that Arrnott has ever appeared on Fijian television.
Yes.
So I just wanted to have a casual conversation with you sitting in this lovely apartment, and I wanted to get to know you and get to know your life, and I wanted our viewers to get to know you as well. So let's start from the beginning. So you were born in Suva. Tell me about growing up in the islands.
So I was born in Suva to a single mum, which, looking back now was hard, but when you're in the middle of it, that's all you sort of know. So in the 70s, it was very unheard of for someone to leave their husband. But my mum, God rest her soul, was strong enough to realize that domestic violence was not a good thing and left my dad. So she brought us up on her own. And I think the one constant that we knew was our faith. And it was one of the main thing that sort of kept us going throughout. And I went to a fantastic school. I went to Gospel Primary, then to Gospel High School.
Wow. So you're a gospel boy.
Gospel boy, and the faith was carried on through schooling as well, until I moved here to Australia.
Okay, so you said that your mother, of course, was a survivor of domestic violence. As you know, domestic violence is still major in Fiji, and it's something that we're battling every single day. So, what were your sentiments around that? Like, did you ever have a need to reach out to your father, or what were you told about your father in their separation?
So it was really interesting. When I was old enough to understand, my mum sort of had a really honest and open conversation with us, which, again, I thank her for that. She was quite ahead of her time, where she said, your father said you're not his child because I'd left him. She was, but you are, and eventually he'll come back around, which he did come back around. And, you know, growing up, we didn't really reach out to him because the family that we had was the church family. And that's all we sort of knew. And, you know, if there was a person that we had called dad or father, it was God.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so...
What church did you go to?
We went to the First Church, Assemblies of God Church. So, you know, I grew up around music, grew up around, you know, faith, but also grew up with a strong role model who instilled in us, you know, that we could do or be anything. And so, you know, as far as I knew, I could do and be whatever I wanted to be.
Give me a little like anecdote of that though. Like in what way? Give me an example of the way that your mom did that for you.
You know, so I'd go to the library and I'd bring out books on how to build things, and we'd go to church and we'd come back on a Sunday, and they'd, you know, after lunch they'd have a nap, and my mum would wake up and I would have built something out of a cardboard box and cut one of her old dresses up, or, you know, and instead of saying, you know, why the hell did you do that? She'd be like, this is amazing, you built a puppet show, or, you know. And so for me it was like, okay, I can, you know, whatever my imagination can dream up, I can be. And so, you know, to think back as a child in a one bedroom, not even bedroom, in a one room housing commission house, doing, you know, living a life where sometimes we didn't know where the next meal would come from, to, you know, traveling the world and doing what I do. It's, you know, that dream, you know, it makes me keep wanting to dream bigger.
Yeah.
But also, and when I do speak to people, I say, you know, don't ever limit yourself by your circumstance, because there's always hope, or there's always, you know, somewhere that you can get to.
I love that.
I don't know where my soul leads. I'm like a bird alone and fly away. I don't know where my soul leads. I don't know where my soul.
Coming up, men's styling.
We've just popped him in. We're putting together some looks for summer.
And Arrnott opens up about losing his mother.
Your mom unfortunately passed away recently.
Yes.
And obviously you had a very close relationship with her, even coming to Australia after all those years. How did you handle that? Bulavanaka, everybody. So we're here today at Villa Camilla. Camilla is one of the world's most famous resort lifestyle brands. What a lot of people don't know is that Camilla also does menswear. So today we're going to head in there and we're going to meet Arrnott Olssen, who we've already heard from in our previous interview, and he's just going to go through a couple of men's looks that can be created using the lifestyle and ethos that Camilla sells. So tell me about your journey then through school. Was there anything that you noticed about yourself growing up that sort of like lent itself towards you working in the field that you work in now? I understand that you're also a singer. Was there anything that sort of like led you that direction?
Well, I grew up, like one of my first memories was singing in church for the Christmas play.
Did you steal the show?
I don't know about stealing the show, but that's one of my earliest memories, was singing, learning. I had a book, had a hard page book that had carols, and I had to learn Away in a Manger. And I remember learning it from that book, and singing it for, you know, for the Christmas show at the end of the year. And I still have that memory of it. And I think that sort of set me off, and I was like, I want to sing.
Okay, so we'll come back to your singing career,
Yeah.
but before that, tell me about your journey to Australia. So how did that happen?
Oh,
when did your mother decide?
So it's really interesting. We because of the church we went to, we met a lot of people that were here from Australia. Became friends with a lot of people here, and you know, they started planting the seed into my mum. They like, if Arrnott wants a career in the arts, he needs to move. You need to move to Australia. You know, if you want to give them a better opportunity. And her biological dad was here and had been here from the 70s. So she decided, she just made up her mind that if this was going to happen, then I'll have to go and bring us over. So, and that was, I remember the year, that whole year, I think it was, if I remember well, it was 89. We ate cabbage and lots of cabbage, and it was cabbage and cabbage.
So major sacrifices.
I think you got to the point through the middle of the year, you were like, can we eat something else other than cabbage? But my mum was this amazing, she was just, the sacrifices that she made, and she could budget. Like, she was this amazing, I don't know where she got this skill from. She always used to say, I can't do it, it was God. But yeah, and the stuff that she did, she learned, could never sew. And she grew up, was brought up by her aunt and uncle, and her aunt was very talented and used to sew, but she never really learned it. But she taught herself to sew, and she'd make these tea cozies and go around and sell them.
Wow.
She could never bake, but she taught herself to bake, and we'd bake these cakes, these cassava cakes, on a kerosene stove.
On a
hot plate. I remember the way she'd do it.
That's actually incredible.
She'd make overnight. We'd make like 5 or 6, and she learned little tricks to make it more interesting. Like, she'd put cheese in it, so it had this stringiness to it, but also like a little bit of saltiness. And people, and then go around and sell it. And I remember guava season, and we'd go and pick guavas down in the gully. There was all these trees, and she'd make guava jelly and guava jam and go and sell it. So, I watched her as well, and that was really interesting for me. I used to say, well, if she can conjure this up almost, then I don't really have an excuse to her.
Yeah.
So it was really true. So she saved up. She came to Australia, and that was Christmas 89, and she thought we'd be here by the next couple of months. Or she came in the middle of the year, if I remember well, and she thought we'd be here by Christmas. But I didn't end up coming, my papers didn't end up coming through till 1995.
So how many years were you apart?
So 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 6 years almost.
Oh wow. So how old are you when she left, and how old are you?
I was just starting in year 6. Year 7, sorry. So Form 1 in Fiji.
So essentially by the time you moved to Australia, you had finished high school?
I'd finished high school.
Wow.
I'd done Form 7.
Well, how did you feel when she told you that your papers had been done?
It was a relief, but you learn to survive. And a couple of times she'd said, I can't do this anymore, I need to come back to you. But I remember speaking to her going, what are you coming back to?
So at a very early age, you already had an awareness about what needed to be done.
Yeah. Like I said, when you come, and thank God she had really great church friends here who said the same thing to her, I was really interested in just, and I remember when I arrived here, even though she was happy, I could see how broken she was from the years without us, because her life was us. So, yeah.
Your mum unfortunately passed away recently.
Yes.
And obviously you had a very close relationship with her, even coming to Australia after all those years. How did you handle that?
I thought I handled it well, but I realized halfway through last year that I hadn't actually handled it. That I actually hadn't handled it very well. So the first part of 2019, I didn't work much, and I eventually had to downsize from the place I was living in, which again is another story in itself. From this apartment, I had to sell everything, get rid of a whole lot of stuff, and downsize to a room basically, to then learn to sort of start again, sort of from scratch. But it's really interesting because I sort of went back to that same strength that I'd had when we were kids, because if we could do it then, why can't I do it now?
Absolutely. Strong values. And a strong woman.
Didn't know you. We were jumping until the break of dawn. Nobody ever told me that you. We were jumping until the break of dawn. We were jumping.
This is Arrnott, everybody. Of course, you'll remember him from our interview. This is Armando. Armando is our model for the day. Armando comes all the way from Germany because we like to keep things international. So Arrnott is going to be styling Armando in a couple of looks, and he's going to talk you through it.
Yes.
So I'll leave you to it, yeah?
Fantastic, thank you. So we're here at one of my favorite Australian brands, but not just an Australian brand, it's an international brand, Camilla. Started, I think 15 years ago or so. I love them because the ethos of what they do is all about people and all about uplifting and all about encouraging. So started mainly as a women's wear label, resort wear, but now they do a lot of guy stuff as well, and I love their stuff. So we're going to put him in a couple of looks. We've got 3 looks here, and I'm just going to work out what I'm going to pop him in, and we'll get him dressed.
Coming up, Arrnott shows us look number 1 for men's styling.
So guys, we've just popped him in. We're putting together some looks for summer, and just for a little story on beachwear, but done in a different way. So I'm just going to pop this scarf on. Now, one of these, I think this is part of a range that was created over Christmas, and Camilla have been working with the Hunger Project in India to support young girls and educate them around health, but also the goal is to end child marriage. So it was really great. We did a promotion on Rogue Home to promote the scarves, to get as much sold as possible so they can raise as much money for their work with the Hunger Project. It was called the Butterfly Effect. So I'm loving what he's got on right now. The scarf just makes it, gives it a little bit of a European sensibility. But if we wanted to take this from the beach to lunch, we can just throw something else on. So we're going to pop this on him. Now, the print is not exactly the same as that print, but what we've done is we've picked up the colors, so that black and gold in there, the black and gold in there, and there's black and gold running through the shorts. And by layering texture on texture, or print over print, it makes it stand out a little bit more, so it's not just one-dimensional. And if you think about how you dress, like when I'm getting dressed, I always try and keep the under layers quite plain. So with me, it's black and gray, and then over the top, I'll wear a different color, a brighter color. Because I'm a bigger guy, I always tend to lean towards darker colors, but don't be afraid to wear color, and don't be afraid to use texture and print on print like we've done here. And I think it looks fantastic on him. He looks like he could be on a yacht somewhere. I wish I was on that yacht.
So you moved to Australia, you've been reunited with your mother after 6 years. What was that reunion like for you?
I was really good, but I think I also had grown an independent streak. So, and I think my mum still found it quite difficult that I still had this independence, which I had when I was a kid, because I remember she used to say, like, if you wanted to, like, they were singing competitions, you'd be like, I've got to go and do it. And so you'd go off and sign myself up for singing competitions and, enter the competitions. And I'd be like, by the way, I'm singing here, so if you guys want to come along and support me, and it was in Fiji, or I'd be like, oh, I'm competing in this oratory competition for the inter-secondary schools, which I won, by the way.
Well done.
I was always a smart mouth from way back then.
So you've always been a debater?
Yes.
Well done.
I was the head of the Inter-Secondary School Debating Association.
Wow.
We also won. We also beat all the other wannabes like Grandma and Marist and the rest of them.
And you think that that's helped you in life?
Definitely helped me in life.
Good. Okay. So you're here, you've form this independent
Yes.
streak. When you came, did you seek other Fijians or seek other Pacific Islanders?
I did at first, but it was great because the people that I got close to were people that my mum sort of already knew, and she was quite interesting. She had a mixed group of people around her, and she actually attended non-Fijian churches.
Okay. Was that uncommon for the time?
Probably, but my mum was an uncommon person, you know, so I did not, you know, and I understood where she came from. Like she would seek out places that would actually feed her spiritually. So, you know, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. We don't want to get too far into that conversation. So you find people obviously who she's already connected
She
with.
connected with, and they were part of a Fijian community and a Fijian church, and that was fantastic. And I got really close with them. It was like, and I'm really close to them now, Vanessa and Dee, and they were friends of my mum in Fiji, so we sort of related as well. And then Dee Ulurewa and her family, who, you know, established a great church here. Her brother Tim Ulurewa was an amazing, you know, songwriter, played on TV, music, and she's now an amazing singer with Hillsong, you know, and tours with Hillsong. So I had an amazing group of people, and there were Fijian peoples that I connected with, but I also made friends out of that because, you know, growing up in Fiji, I always had a mixed group of friends, older mixed with younger, and, you know, I didn't just have one kind of friend group. I had quite an interesting mix of different groups of friends. And I always found myself sort of bringing people together or bringing groups together.
A natural networker.
Yeah. But it was all about, like, for me, I found people fascinating and how they reacted differently. But I always looked for people that were nice and were open and joyous and had love. Because that's what I had at home. So it's what I gravitated towards with other people as well.
Yeah.
And I think I found out really early, even as a kid, after my mum came, how to judge. I figured people out really quickly, and I could tell straight away what kind of person they were. But also, I found that God always had a protective eye over me, and if anyone shouldn't be around, I'd always be moved away from that place, or they'd always be moved away, and it happened quite easily.
Obviously, your faith is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, and it hasn't changed, and whatever I do, it's always there because it's an innate part of who I am, and it's, like we'd ask my mum when we were kids, I need new shoes for school, and she said, ask God. And that's crazy when you look back now. You're like, what the hell? But it's all I knew.
Yeah.
So because it was all I knew, it is still now a part of
the second nature.
Yes. Of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just calling to let you know about the workshop, whether or not you are going.
Yeah.
As you know, that's an elimination process, and it is a week on the Gold Coast.
Yes.
And we would love you to come along.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll see you there on it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I made it. And it's a week on the Gold Coast. Oh, God, never been to the Gold Coast. That's going to be great.
Yes.
They asked me during the second editions, what I thought of people's view that a pop star was supposed to be someone skinny and tall, and I said, it's about time we change that.
You're here, you've met these wonderful people, and of course, for those of us that remember the days of pop stars, for those of you that don't remember pop stars was around before Idol, before The Voice. It was the very first reality TV show about singers and about putting together a group or a band. So Arrnott, you were on a season of Pop Stars.
I was on 2 seasons of Pop Stars.
Okay, so obviously you're a singer, you're a debater.
Yes.
So you like to talk and you like to sing. So reality television was for you.
No, so I'd just done the year before that. I'd done a year of music at Hillsong College, and I'd come out of it, and I've sort of discovered that, you know, like I could sing here if I wanted to, you know.
Can you tell me a little bit of Hillsong College, just for viewers?
So it was great. Like for me, it was all about cementing that what I loved with music, you know. And the church that we attended back then at Liverpool, where I led worship. So it was a sort of a natural extension for me to try. I wanted to go and cement that love of music. And I wanted to go to Wesley College here. But God had his own plans, and it worked out that someone supported me and sponsored me to go to Hillsong and study there. And I remember turning up to orientation and getting up and saying, I didn't really like the music for the Hillsong music, but God brought me here, and so I'm here. I don't know how well that went down, but... Yeah.
And how do you feel about Hillsong music today?
It's very different today. Yeah, very different. But back then it was, I mean, there were some songs that I absolutely loved, that Darlene wrote. But yeah, there were a lot of songs that we didn't connect to because it wasn't the music that I sang in my church.
Yeah.
But by doing that, by getting up and doing that, I then drew this amazing group of people of color that were there attending the college, people that felt a little like they didn't belong. And I created this group around who we all sort of like during college supported each other.
Did you ever feel coming to Australia at that particular time in the 90s as an outsider, as a person of color?
Yeah. I did experience a bit of racism, which was interesting. But because I knew I was very aware of who I was and I came in confidence, you know, I knew I came with my papers. I was here legally. I wasn't going to take any crap from people. And my mum had been through enough sacrifices, you know, no one was going to tell me who or what or how I should act. Yeah. And so when I did face it, I was quite vocal about it.
Yeah.
And I think it shocked a lot of people because I don't think they expected it. Because I was by nature, I'm quite quiet. But, you know, I can also have a voice when I need to.
You can bite when you need to.
I don't know about bite, but
you're not all bark.
No.
So tell me, in Fiji, did you experience racism? As a mixed race person, post 87 coup?
It was interesting because I remember once in class getting up to say, as a Fijian, and I remember Fijian kids in class saying, well, you're not really Fijian. But then I couldn't say as a person, as a Caucasian, because, you know, white people would be like, you're not white. And so I learned, I think that was one sort of thing that really instilled in me this awareness of who I was. And so I came to this conclusion that, well, I'm just me and I've got these amazing values or amazing features from both sides, and that makes me better than you.
Up next, Arrnott gives us more tips on men's styling. Welcome back to Stylish. Fuzz was recently in Sydney and linked up with singer, founder of Rogue Home, style influencer and blogger Arrnott Olssen. Arrnott, an Australian Fijian, is a popular face in the house music scene in Australia and the founder of one of Australia's leading men's lifestyle sites, Rogue Home.
So guys, look number 2. What I'm doing here is we're keeping the shorts on just to show you how every piece in the wardrobe can be interchanged. So I kept that on, but we've thrown in Australia we call it a jumper, or cardigan, I don't know if you want to call it that, over the top. And I love the print on this. This is really cool. So the statement of this whole outfit is the print, and it's really cool. It's in a solid color, but again, it's picking up the black from the shorts. And this look he could wear out. I mean, you know, anything will probably look good on Armando. The rest of us need to try a little harder, but yeah. And then he's got some really cool chains on, so I'll get him just to pop it out onto his thing and see how it looks. Perfect. And that's done, that's another look. But again, if you've got pieces in your wardrobe, try mixing and matching with other things and see how it works, you know. And it's a good idea to actually spend a day going through your pieces, popping them together, seeing how they work side by side, putting them on, because clothes look different on you than they do on the hanger as well. And if you are shopping online, just ensure that you understand what the shape of, you know, what you're purchasing is and how it'll sit on your body as well, which is really, really important. So I, for one, wear quite plain things, but I am very partial to a really great print like this. This in itself is a sort of a standout, you know, like Armando is quite athletic, and so he's quite fit. So something like that is great on him because he can pull it off. But I would say anyone can as well. You know, you can always put a jacket or a blazer over the top of this if you want to minimize the bold print. But prints and animal prints are particularly cool at the moment as well, and very on trend. And it's okay to be a little bit out there. You could, if you want to go for a cleaner looking chino or short, wear something that's sort of similar in color to the black. You could go navy blue, or you could go even something, pick up those tones in something that's a little bit more caramel or honey. But yeah, and a really great idea is if you're wearing a print, keep everything else quite simple.
Coming back to pop stars.
Pop stars.
So I know you might cringe a little bit when you look back on your video.
Oh Lord, yes.
So you decided to go for auditions.
I saw it was the second year of Pop Stars. The first year they had created Bardo.
Yes, and everybody remembers Bardo.
Yes.
Well, I do. I might be showing my age.
Yes. And the second year was they were putting together a mixed group of boys and girls. Mm-hmm. And I remember a few people saying, "Oh, don't go," you know, because I'd put on weight then. I remember coming to Australia, I'd put on weight because I actually wasn't doing what I loved. You know, I'd found a normal job. And after college, I then started to do this. I was working in a bank, you know. But after college is when I started to realize that I could get out there and sing it if I wanted to. And there was a few other opportunities that sort of had come up and come my way. I'd done this event with Bankstown Council with this amazing lady called Kerry Sebio, and it was they put on these huge events during the Olympic Games in 2000, and Paulini and I actually went. Like, she got asked to audition for it, and she said, "Oh, you should come along and audition as well," because we were singing in church together. So I went along with her and auditioned, and we had this huge event on at the Olympic Velodrome, and we sang to welcome the US team to Bankstown because it was like their sister city. And so that had got me started. Gone to college. That had given me the confidence. And in 2000 and at the end of 2000, the auditions came up, and I remember going for the audition. I'd got myself. I joined an extras agency, and I remember getting this TV commercial that was national throughout Australia, and it was me in this hideous fake leather red jacket, saying, "I'm just a singer." And there's this campaign that went Australia-wide, and they took snippets of it and they used it. I remember turning up to the audition, and Jackie O had said to me, "Oh, I remember you from the ad campaign." And I had the same fake leather jacket on that I had designed and got a friend of my mum's to sew up for me, you know.
As you do.
As you do. And I remember just getting up and going, "I'm going to just sing." And I got through that first audition, got called back the next day, went back the next day, and I knew, I then went, okay, this is going to be the hard, you know, getting through this next one. Went in to sing, got through that audition. They then said, "We have dance in the afternoon." And I thought to myself, dance? Oh Lord. And did the dance auditions and got through that, and then had to wait for a phone call to find out whether I had made the final auditions, which would then be in the Gold Coast. And then got a call to say that they were coming to film, and I thought, well, if they're coming to film, this might mean that I've made it, but then again, it might not. And I remember thinking, in between the phone call and I then had gone on this diet, and I was trying to walk, and I was thinking, you know what? So I got a call and I made the auditions, and the experience was amazing. They flew us to the Gold Coast, and we danced every morning in 40-degree heat.
Oh, sounds terrible.
Had to learn choreography. Then the afternoon we'd do the singing auditions, and then they'd cut someone. So every day for a week, they'd do this and cut people. And I made it to the end of the week, which was amazing. And I'd remember I got an opportunity to sing us. You could do an original or you could sing a song that you loved. And I'd written a song called Just Hold On, and it was a dedication to, it was about teenage suicide and about people that had gone through stuff, because a friend of mine had lost someone to suicide, and I'd written this song. And I got to sing it, and all the judges were crying and everyone was crying, and the song was what then took me through, which was it was just a God thing. So I made it to the end of the week, and then we then had to dance in groups, and then they picked a team, and I didn't get past that. That was it. But after we'd moved back to Sydney, after we'd come back to Sydney, and then were announcing the winners, somehow it got leaked. So they invited 5 of us that were the most sort of popular to come and stay in this house, and they sort of used us as decoys. But it was really interesting because it gave me a big platform, and that's where I sort of got my start. Interviews in magazines and did radio interviews, and they'd say, "You're really good at this," and in my head I'd say, "Well, I've been practicing interviews in front of the mirror for years."
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Wow," and it's funny because when I look back, I realized that there was tinges of racism in a lot of those comments, and it was basically, for someone who's come from Fiji, you speak really well.
That's the most common thing people like to say to us.
Yeah.
It's shocking, but it's true.
Ooh, yeah, bring back me, baby. Oh, you, bring back me, baby.
So let's come to that now, actually. So you've done pop stars, you've chased the singing dream, and then you transition into this lifestyle guru, essentially. How does that happen? How do you go from wanting to be a recording artist to being okay, you know what, we're going to do this now?
I found in Sydney you had to be creative in a whole lot of different ways. And I'd started a blog when blogging first sort of kicked off. And that would be 9 years ago, 9, almost 10 years ago. And it sort of took off. I started getting emails from publicists about coming to events, and I was like, it's not really why I started this blog. It was only for my friends, so that they knew.
What was it called?
It was called Arrnott the Collector.
Love it.
And basically it was my
Chance the Rapper.
My friends would call me and say, "Where's a good place to, take a date?" Or "Where can I buy this jacket from or this shirt from?" And I'd say, "I'll go here," or "There's this."
So you
place.
kind of made it your business to know where things.
I knew, I just knew because it was what I loved, and because I'd started styling as well. I was fashion styling with different people, so I started this blog and it grew, and then I was like, no, I'm not really interested, shut it down. And about 7 years ago, through the help of a friend of mine, Sean, I lost 79 kilos. So went through this extreme sort of change. And when I came out of it the next year, I had a publicist, and she was pitching the story to media. And they said, "Oh, that's great, we love a good weight loss story, but what else is he doing? He was on Pop Stars and he sings, but what else is he doing?" And she came back to me and said, "Oh, what's happened to your blog?" And I said, "Oh, it wasn't really." So she, Ilona, encouraged me, and she said, "Well, I think that it was great, and I think you need to bring it back up." And she goes, "But this time when you do it, think about it, how are you going to present it?" So I went away, I created the name, and I thought, what was missing out there? And I found that there was no voice from someone that looked like me. So there were sites and there were journalists, but no one that looked like me was telling stories or sharing things from my point of view. So then Rogue Home was created. So I created this site, and I thought, and
how did you come to the name?
The name was funny. I loved, brogues were very much in fashion, and I wanted the word brogue in the name because I thought it was kind of cool, but it was already taken. And so I remember a friend saying to me, "Well, you've always been a bit of a rebel. What about rebel?" And I was like, no. And then I think we had spoken and we were talking about it, and the word rogue came up, and I always wanted in it because every time I'd get, buy cologne, it had pour on it, or I love Vogue magazine. So I knew I wanted in it, but then the word rogue came, and I thought, well, I've always been a bit of a, did my own thing, a rogue, did my own thing, so. And, looking back, it was probably so cliche for me to have done that. But I also had the foresight to think, I want to do product in the future, and what would look good on a label.
Clever.
So Rogue Homme was born. And, you know, I have to constantly tell people, you know, it's homme, not homo, or homie, or home, or rouge, it's Rogue Homme. But that in itself is a conversation starter, so yeah.
Excellent. So your publicist says that you need to get it going again, so you start Rogue Homme. What did you want it to be about?
I wanted it to be a sort of a place of knowledge for men that didn't necessarily buy GQ or Men's Style, but still wanted to know where to shop, where to eat, you know, what was in, what was out, where to travel, gadgets. So in essence, it was all about giving a voice to people that didn't have a voice, you know. And there was this big group of, you know, people that bought fashion magazines for men, which was not a lot, and people that didn't, but were expected to still know where to go and what to do. And so I wanted to fill that gap, and that's where Rogue Homme came in, and that's where the headings came in. So like it was fashion, lifestyle, food, and travel. And then since then it's sort of expanded and taken on a, you know, 7 years, 8 years later, it's taken on a life of its own.
Up next, the third and final look for our men's styling by Arrnott Olssen.
When the night closes in,
Arrnott works with street kids and wrote this song about teenage suicide.
and you think that no one really cares, and when you hope that someone somewhere hears you, and you feel that this might be the end, and just hold on, 'cause there's someone who cares. And just reach out and take hold of my hand, and just stand still and hear my voice inside you, and just hold on, 'cause I am here with
The emotion is not lost on his colleagues and the judges.
That was sensational. That was.
Is there anyone not crying that can follow that?
What some might look at as an overnight success that's taken 8 years or 7 years of growth.
Yeah. Where do you see it going?
I see it expanding into including more stories and a section for people of color. So this year, hopefully, cultured. We're launching. We're creating a podcast, product, but also events, and just giving more opportunity to young people from the Pacific community that are looking to get into videography and photography and styling and fashion and journalism and writing. You know, giving them a platform, because when I started, there was no one giving us the opportunities, and I created my own.
Something that I want to touch on, something that I think a lot of Pacific Islanders sort of have anxiety about, particularly in countries outside of the Pacific, but I think it is filtering home a little bit now too, is issues of the body and body image. So you said that, you know, by the time you'd gone on to Pop Stars, you'd put on a little bit of weight, and then of course you lost a great deal of weight, and then you put a bit of weight back on. What has that journey been like for you emotionally, and do you think that it's impacted you in any way?
I definitely think my weight can sometimes hinder me being vibrant and being open, because I love clothes and I love dressing, and you know, if I find things don't fit or they don't fit well, it then sometimes makes me uncomfortable. And I think I just need to get to the point where I haven't quite got to, where I sort of love myself totally. And I think that's the big issue, because it's such a Pacific Island thing where it's like, you can't, you know, what do you mean love yourself? You know, and it's about I think it's about accepting who you are. And a lot of times, I feel like the last year after my mum's passing, I went into this sort of little hole. And, unfortunately, I love food and food gives me comfort. So this year was all about realizing that. And now I want to get fit and healthy, not get skinny, not try and, fit into a mold. But I also want to put my health first, and let it happen in a way that's organic and not try and fit into, a westernized idea of what I should look like. Because, at the end of the day, when at my smallest, people were asking me, are you okay? Are you healthy? I was 103 kilos and they were still asking me if I was okay and healthy. Yeah. So, I've got to stop looking at myself from in that sort of Western eye and realize that my body will always be different, but I just need to be healthy. Yeah. We need to be healthy, and it all comes down to what we put in our mouth and, how we eat. And I need to think about what I'm eating, and I need to think healthy and go back to the way, when we grew up, when I was a kid, we ate healthy because that's all we could afford, instead of, all the melees and, green vegetables. And I think this year is all about knowing that identity. Yeah. And hopefully by discovering that, I'll be able to help other people as well.
Fantastic.
So for our final look, guys, we've got a bit of an athleisure vibe going on here. Bomber style jacket's awesome. Amanda would probably wear this. Would you, Amanda?
Yeah, sure, 100%.
The bomber style is really great. It crosses over from the gym to everyday life. And then if he's going to go to the beach, all he needs to do is take the jacket off, and then the short speaks for itself. He could just wear the shorts by itself, and he's off running along Bondi Beach, taking photos. Hi, I'm Arrnott Olssen, and I just want to give a word of encouragement to anyone out there who's dreaming of anything creative or whatever your dreams are. It's never too big and it's never too far out of reach, because if you believe in it enough, you have faith, and you have a great support network, you can achieve anything. And I think I'm a good example of that. And, I might not be, living in luxury, but I'm doing what I love. And I think that's what's really important, for you to do what you love and what you're passionate about. So anyone out there, figure out what it is you want to do and chase it. Just chase it.